Redstone and I are two incompatible things. For me, this aspect of the game has always been a mystery that I found very difficult to solve, but of course, I have tried to understand it. Look, I have these 3 books about Redstone, which I naturally read to get an idea of how it works. But there is a problem. The mechanics of Redstone sometimes change. This book is straight out of 2014. It's unofficial, and the description says it was created specifically for those who love stories about the struggle between good and evil, magic schools like Hogwarts from Harry Potter, and games like Minecraft, Terraria, and Pokemon Go. What? Oh well, this book is long out of date, it doesn't suit me. The second book was older than the previous one, published in 2013, and was one of the first official Minecraft guides. It does not cover the Redstone changes that occurred in the Redstone Update 1.5. At the very least, the book advises mining Redstone with a gold pickaxe, which does not work in reality. The third book is slightly newer, published in 2017. The book is also official and contains new information, but still, 2017 was 8 years ago. During this time, Minecraft has been updated and started to work a little differently. So what should I do? Here's what Mojang's marketing folks thinks will help me to learn Redstone, and it's only £10. This book was published in 2022, and it's currently the most recent in the series of guides. As far as I understand, none of the developers who have direct knowledge of how Redstone works had a hand in writing this book. Do you think I'll be able to learn Redstone? Let's find out together. It all starts with greeting, of course, and while in the previous book it was written by Marsh Davis, then creative communication manager at Mojang, with the signature of the Mojang team, in the new one we are simply told, let's get engineering. First, they try to explain me what Redstone is. This time they gave the correct information that it can be found from -63 to 15 on the y-axis, and that you need at least an iron pickaxe to mine it. A copper pickaxe, which will appear in 1.21.9, is also not suitable, which is strange, by the way. After that, there was a general information that Redstone can be placed on a single block and it will look like a dot on a block. It can be powered by redstone torch, and it can also be placed on blocks in different directions. The main purpose of redstone signal is to force a block to perform the task for which a specific redstone block was created. At the end, I was told that the strength of the redstone depends on the distance to activate energy source, up to maximum of 15 blocks. This section concludes with the point that redstone is also used in recipes for creating other blocks. That is why the next 4-page section shows all the recipes that use redstone dust, as well as simple recipes for blocks related to redstone. So far, I have learned what is already obvious, what I think every player knows, the most basic knowledge. I already knew all this before. Perhaps later I will learn a little more, namely in the section Redstone Power. In this section I will have to understand how redstone blocks work, which I will need to create mechanisms. In fact, I am shown a screenshot from the game with a block, and next to it is information about this block, which seems to have been taken from MineWiki. But it's not that bad. I found some new information for myself about pressure plates. The thing is, besides stone and wooden pressure plates, I've never used any others. I knew that wooden pressure plates give the strongest signal when a player, mob, item is on them, and that they can also be activated by arrows, while stone pressure plates works only with mobs and players. Gold and iron pressure plates were new to me. No, I knew that they existed. It turns out that the gold pressure plate, also called light, depends on mobs, items and players, but each of them is equal to only one signal unit. That is, to get 15 units of power, you need as many as 15 mobs or 15 players. With items, everything is different. You can't just throw away 15 blocks of wood to get the same result. It turns out you need to throw 15 different blocks or items, and then the effect will be the same. Iron or heavy requires 10 times more for each level. That is, to get the same level 15, you will need about 150 mobs, players or different items. After such enthusiasm and energy, the next section surprised me, to say the least. Instead of a guide, I was greeted by an interview with the Minecrafter Tiggerbow. He started out as a redstoner, and now he creates add-ons and various DLCs for the Minecraft marketplace. He created the Poisonous Potato add-on on April 1st, 2024, as a part of an April Fool's Day prank. It is free and available to everyone. I have nothing against Tiggerbow, he's cool, but this is a guide to redstone. There is nothing in the interview itself that would teach me redstone, and what's more, it's not just one section. The interview appears 3 times in book. That's 6 pages. The book then continued to introduce me to redstone blocks, and it was time for comparators. I don't know anything about them, except that they can be used to measure the fullness of a block, so to speak. For example, if you place a chest and put a comparator next to it, the signal level will directly depend on the number of items in the chest. I know this because blocks that can emit the signal often appears in snapshot reviews. The latest ones are copper golem statues, whose poses emit different signal levels through the comparator. But that's not its main purpose. It turns out that it has two more uses: signal comparing and signal subtracting. As it turns out, it's very simple. The comparator has two inputs and one output. If the signal coming to the side panel is weaker than the signal from the rear panel, it is saved and output through the front panel. If the side panel signal is stronger, it is not output. The device can compare up to two side signals, one from each side of comparator. Now it's much more obvious how it works. The second mod is subtraction. I had trouble understanding how subtraction works. That's because the explanation in the book was strange. So I had to turn to Wiki to understand how it works. And the Redstone 2x resource pack helped me a lot. It shows signal levels. That's what made me understand how the subtraction mod works. My problem was that I didn't understand how the output signal is calculated if two side signals are placed in the subtraction mode at once, because subtraction itself works very simply. The strength of the main signal from the rear is subtracted from the strength of the side panel signal, and the result is obtained in the output. But what if two are connected at once? Then the comparator selects the side signal that is stronger and subtracts it from the main one. Nothing complicated, but the book has literally two small columns about the comparator. The next section talked about all types of rails, minecarts, and how they work. Then there was a section that told me about useful blocks. Glazed terracotta, because it can be moved with a regular and sticky piston, but the sticky one won't be able to pull this block back. And these blocks will also help separate different mechanisms. Then slime block, honey, dynamite, and obsidian, which helps in the construction of TNT cannons because it does not explode. And if you need the explosion resistance of obsidian, but also want to move the block with pistons, then ancient debris will work. The last chapter of the first part of this book was dedicated to troubleshooting and generally gave simple advice. Be creative, check mechanisms during construction, use different colored blocks to separate mechanisms, create the mechanism first and improve it later, and don't mix up the blocks. The second part of the book, called Let's Put It All Together, presents me with slightly more complex diagrams. They show how to create an inverted signal, a vertical inverted signal, how a slime block can be moved by a piston, and how a slime block will in turn move the blocks attached to it. Repeaters, in addition to amplifying the signal, can simply pass it through themselves. Next, they showed slabs through which a redstone signal can also pass, and that a comparator can read the fullness of a block. The next section demonstrated how to lift the redstone mechanism upward. This can be done using the ladder method, where blocks are simply stacked like stairs, with redstone dust on each one. The second method is more compact and it's called the step ladder. Slabs can also be used to lift the mechanism. Slabs work great for this and transmit the signal even if the blocks are not connected together. For the first time in the entire book, a practical example appeared on page 34. In our case, it is alarm against intruders. The principle is simple. When a player approaches your house, the alarm is triggered. In fact, there is nothing complicated here. The mechanism is simple and understandable, except for the note blocks, because they simply create two notes, and you may not hear them. But as a first serious mechanism after basic knowledge, it is quite good. Next is the section on logic gates. They are divided into four types: NOT, OR, NOR, and AND. The first NOT gate, also known as an inverter, is used in cases where an output signal opposite to the input signal is required. As shown here, I activate the lever and the redstone lamp turns off, but as soon as I turn off the lever, the lamp turns on, and vice versa. All this can be done with a single redstone torch. The second OR gate is an element that uses two or more inputs, and when any of the inputs is turned on, one output is also turned on. This is clearly seen in this example. No matter which lever I activate, the result will be the same. The redstone lamp will be activated. However, to turn it off, each of the levers must also be turned off. The third gate, NOR, as you may have guessed from the name, combines the two previous ones. Whenever at least one lever is turned on, the output is turned off. To turn on the redstone lamp, all levers must be turned off. The last gate, and works on a similar principle, except that for the output to be turned on, in our case the output is the redstone lamp, all levers must be turned on. And conversely, to turn off the lamp, all levers must also be turned off. This section is a little more serious, but I managed to understand everything again by going to Wiki, although I must admit that the illustrations in the book are much more obvious than on Wiki. To reinforce the material, the book suggests building a shooting range. The task was simple. When 3 blocks of the target are hit, fireworks should fly out. In other words, it's a NOR gate. The book shows beautifully how to build the circuit correctly, but there are 2 problems. First, at the beginning, where the resources needed for construction are shown, only a small part is shown. No one mentions repeaters, comparators, or hopper, even though these are all important materials. But that's okay, it's not so important. Second, for everything to work correctly, you need to place 121 blocks in the chest and 3 blocks in the hopper, but no one explains why this number, what for and why. As someone who doesn't understand redstone, I had to go to the wiki again. It turns out that when redstone hits, the torches go out, unlocks the hopper, thereby filling the chest with blocks, and then as soon as there are 124 blocks in the chest, the comparator counts it and sends a redstone signal that activates the dispenser, which in turn releases fireworks. In reality, nothing worked. As soon as I hit 2 targets, the fireworks are still launched, and I did everything exactly as it was written in the book, and this is the result. I had to turn to a friend who is very knowledgeable about redstone. He explained me that the arrow remains suspended and emits a redstone signal for 3 ticks, which is just enough to pull out the blocks. He advised me to use snowballs, and it worked, but then you have to hit the center exactly for the fireworks to work. Pulse circuits were a mystery, but I figured out how to create them. It's not complicated. By placing 3 repeaters like this, when activated, the signal is sent to 2 repeaters at once, but one of them blocks the third, and only after the signal is turned off is it transmitted by pulse from the blocked repeater and continues on. But in addition to the pulse generator, there is an extender, a limiter, and a divider. The extender makes the circuit longer with the extra repeaters. The limiter converts any input signal into a short signal pulse of fixed duration. The divider outputs a signal only after a certain number of pulses are detected through the input. The number of pulses indicates the number of cycles. Where can pulse circuits be used? For example, in hidden stairs, which the book suggests building immediately after the section on pulses. In fact, when you have a step-by-step schematic of how to build all this, it doesn't cause any particular problems. The mechanism is not particularly complicated. You will manually need repeaters, redstone dust, redstone torches, and sticky pistons. In the schematic, we use vertical signal transmission and gates. Having figured it out a little, the schematic doesn't seem so complicated to me anymore, and I already understand how it works. Although before starting the experiment, when I first flipped through the book, I had serious doubts about whether I would be able to understand anything at all. But everything worked out, and the stairs appear and disappear. The next section is clock. I have minimal knowledge here, at least because of various dupes in Minecraft where it was used. The first option from the book is a clock on torches. This is the simplest clock. It works very easily. When we send a signal, the torches go off, the signal disappears, and the torch lights up, creating a new activate signal. The second is a clock on repeaters, which I am familiar with. By connecting 2 repeaters with the redstone dust, they close when powered by a torch, and then when the torch is destroyed, they remain active forever. If you do this very quickly, they will flash constantly, creating a redstone signal, which is exactly the type of repeater used in dupes. We can combine the first and second option to get something like this. Here an inverted NOT gate is already used. The last option that the book offers me is a clock on hoppers. This is the most compact clock. You need to place 2 hoppers facing each other, throw an item, and place a comparator near one of the hoppers. Then it will read the capacity of the hopper each time and output a redstone signal. How can this be used? The book suggests making the castle defense. Yes, the mechanism itself is very simple. You will need several dispensers, which we fill with arrows, then we connect the dispensers with redstone, place a block near it, place a torch next to it, and block its signal with a lever. Behind the block, we need to build a third version of the clock. That's it! When you press the lever, the arrows will start shooting at your enemies, thus protecting your castle. Yes, the book also suggests building a tower, but that's up to you. The last section of the second part of the book is called Redstone hacks, but I didn't notice anything interesting there. For example, that you can use daylight sensor for wireless transmission of redstone signals. You can create a clock using a minecart and rails. When the minecart passes over the detector rail, it will send a signal. Then you can create a signal of a certain power using the chest containing items and the comparator that will read their number and then output the desired signal. The last one is intentional misdirection, so that vertically going dust does not power an extra block along the way. When you run redstone down, the dust on each level weakly powers the block below or next to it. Because of this, levers, doors, pistons, etc. may accidentally be activated along the way. To avoid this, you can place a target block, but this only works in Java. The third and final part of the book is the workshop. There are exactly 7 different redstone mechanisms here: a trap with a fall into lava, its alternative version with water or monster spawners, a hidden passage using a minecart, an alternative version with levers, selection the necessary blocks using a lectern, of course an alternative version, and finally a tunnel drill. I don't think there is any point of building all this, but if you're interested, you might be able to find a scanned version of this book at link in the description. I don't even know who could have done that. So what's the bottom line? Did this book help me? Definitely yes. I learned new things that previously seemed difficult to me, but here's the problem. I only understood them because I had to. I didn't fully understand what the book was about, and I had to go online, search Wikipedia or look for the same lessons. So in essence, the book only prompted me to understand what it describes, and I won't lie, you included. I didn't really want to lose face in front of you. I would still like to discover this aspect of the game in a new way. Is it worth buying this book? I doubt it. It's just a marketing ploy, a cut-down version of MindWiki. At the very least, they didn't show me anything related to the skulk sensor, although the book was released after this block appeared. At the very least, the book confirmed that such a block exists. I think the previous part was much clearer, and I also had to go back to it to understand what this book is about. Still, some aspects are better explained in it. I didn't become a redstone master, but I definitely got a better understanding of how it all works. Let's see how it works in practice. Did this video help you? Write in the comments. While you wait for the next video, check out these ones. They're just as interesting. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, smash that like button and hit the notification bell. See you soon, because we're discovering Minecraft in a whole new way.